It's about the journey. It's about that. But like, I honestly believe that, and like getting your ass kicked before anything, and then continuing to get your ass kicked even while you're successful, right?
Well, there's no doubt, as long as you, like, if you have the eye on the prize, right? As long as you want to get something started, and you're relentless about that. And whether you get smashed to the left or the right or whatever, you just keep going. Like you visualize things and you just keep moving.
Yeah. I mean, you never know where it ends up is the thing too, right? Like, even when you get to a point where, you are what most people would consider successful, like success to me is different than success to you, right? Like, what does that ultimately mean? You see these CEOs and these business owners that are 100 millionaires and billionaires and stuff like that. That's great. That's cool. Like, there's no doubt. But like, how hard was it? And what were your struggles to get there? And what do you struggle with today? Like, I wake up and I freak out every morning, right? Like, we got to be doing this. We got to be doing that, right? And it's just because, like, I think it's that relentless passion to, like, I think it's not about, I don't know. I don't think it's about being successful so much as not wanting to fail.
Right.
Because failure sucks. Yep. Like, if all of a sudden you, like when I lost it all, right? Like, I'm glad I went through that when I did go through that, because I was young. I was 20, well, that was in 2000, end of 2009, so it's 13, so it's 27. Like, 27, in retrospect at the time, I'm sitting there, I'm being like, oh my God, I'm a grown-ass man and I'm filing bankruptcy and all this stuff. But really, 27, you're a kid. You're a pup. And so, like, you don't know what you don't know, but like, I'm glad that I went through it at that time. I'm glad I didn't have kids and a family and all that stuff, because that makes things, like, even my life today is harder than it was at 27, and I'm certainly wealthier than I was at 27 and more experienced, but my life's harder. My fiance has 2 boys. Like, life's different. When it's just you, like, you can do anything, right? But like, when you have other responsibilities is what makes it tough. And that's why I'm glad I went through when I went through it. But thing is that when you go through things like that, you learn so much. You learn about like where I may have went wrong. But then sometimes, like, when I was going through that, I never blame myself, because I knew I was working my ass off. It wasn't my work ethic, and I don't think I failed at anything. I think it was market driven. I happened to be in real estate and finance, and the market exploded, right? And then a year and a half later, of course, I lost everything. Like, and I think a lot of people experienced that during the Great Recession. But a lot of people still look at that as like, I was doing so, like, I love when people talk about the Great Recession now as if it happened 2 years ago. I was doing so well, and then the Great Recession. And I'm like, bro, that was 14 years ago. Like, if you're still telling that story, like, oh, woe is me, like, that was a learning experience for everybody. But like, in 14 years, like, at some point, you got to get past that and move on. 14 years, that's a long time. So, but I do like hearing the bumps and bruises, because I think what it does is it puts perspective into play that everybody's a human being and everybody goes through things. But the most successful people went through the journey, whatever that journey was. Like, nobody that was successful, like, very few people that are successful had it handed to them on a silver platter. Very few. And I want to hear the stories of the struggle. Like, why was it hard then versus now? Like, what would you have done differently? And what was your roadmap? What was your blueprint to get where you are today in your life? And I want to hear it from some of the best minds and some of the best people in the country and the world on this podcast.
I'm excited about that, because there's going to be consistencies that keep showing up. You talked about work ethic, focus. I'd also like to know what the differences were.
Yeah.
What did they do? Because their measure of success is going to be different. You talked about money, but it can be other things that make you successful. Maybe it is family, maybe it is education, things like that. But there's going to be differences, their success, and differences on how they got there, and then a lot of consistencies on what just that journey is, like you said.
Totally. I was watching the playoffs this past weekend, and I thought to myself, there's these pro athletes, and they were just ragging on Kyler Miller the whole game, right? Because he played like shit. But I thought to myself, like, that guy's going through a really, really bad day and a bad time. Like, they just got knocked out of the playoffs, right? Weight of the world's on his shoulders. Do you know how many football games that dude has played in?
Exactly.
Like, the experience, and he's young, right? But like, you had to play in an unbelievable amount of football games, win an unbelievable amount of football games, get drafted, like
Just to get drafted.
Just to play college ball.
Right.
Like to be a professional athlete like these guys, and you hear people rag on them, oh, he's average at best. Like average at best compared to who? Like,
Yeah. I mean, what gets me is when they say, oh, that guy's a wimp.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's like, yeah, you get off your couch and try that. You
all
won't
that
last
stuff.
2 plays.
all that stuff, right?
Well, average in the NFL means there's 32 teams, so average is 16. That means there's 15 guys in the world better at your job than you.
Right.
What do you? What?
Right.
So I'm
In the
15th.
world.
Yeah.
But you just think about the hard work and dedication that takes to be a professional athlete, and any professional athlete. You look at boxers, you look at hockey players, and like even hockey. Like people don't realize how hard it is to be a professional hockey player. Like it might be the hardest sport to be a professional at.
Imagine how you feel after the playoffs are done, getting in front of the net and getting hacked the whole time. They must be. I mean, you got to be so tough, right?
But you think about hockey because it's so worldwide, right? You got Russia, you got Europe, you got the States, you got Canada. Like hockey's I don't want to say worldwide because it's not like a South American game or anything like that, but hockey's an international game full of crazy competition. And there's only 15 guys on a roster, 18,
Right.
Something like that. Where like football, you got 80 some dudes on a roster, right?
Practice squads, all of it. Yeah.
All that. I mean, but not to compare like sports or anything. My point is that to be a professional anything takes an incredible amount of practice. That's why I have a problem with my profession, because people go through 90 hours of real estate school, and the next thing I see is looking to purchase your next home. Give me a call. I'll give you the details. It's like
luxury homes only.
No, I respect that. Like I respect the hustle, but like, I mean, you got to pay your dues. And that's the thing too. That was one of the mistakes that I made, is because I thought I knew everything. Like I was out there, investment properties and all these things. And quite frankly, I didn't know shit about real estate. I had to lose everything in order to understand what I was actually doing. Like it was like funny money, but really guess what? It's not funny money. Like that's real dough that you're putting out there. Not everything's a guarantee. Markets don't go up forever. And when that hit, it was hard, but like it made me learn my lesson. And as to number one, I never, ever want to go through that again, ever. That's why even in my life, like, and you guys know me on a personal level, I'm pretty damn conservative when it comes to things because I don't want to deal with that crap again. And that's why I look at 20-year-olds too. I love watching 20-year-old entrepreneurs because they have that drive and that passion.
Yeah, fearless. They're fearless.
They're fearless, but like,
absolutely,
it's hard to tell somebody just proceed with caution, because everybody thinks they're going to be that anomaly that just blows it out of the water. And the fact is, almost every one of you are going to go through hard times. And how do you deal with those hard times?
Well, I think that's the key, right? Like what shows your real character is how you do deal with those hard times.
Yeah.
If it crushes you and you don't come back, like the guys you're talking about that are still talking about 2008, it's
right.
like, come on, guys. But the real tough guys are the ones that are just like, no, I did it once, I'm going to do it again. Like nothing's going to stop me. And
you know what?
I continually learn.
I find too that the people that stick to the script are the ones that usually come out on top. Like I've seen so many of my friends that I wouldn't call them friends so much as acquaintances, but I've known a lot of people that have always bounced to like the next great idea to get rich, because they don't want to put in the work. They think if I come here for 2 years, maybe I can hit it rich quickly. Like there's no quick scheme into getting rich. For most people, it's a period of longevity. You build, you get smarter, you get better, you build your company, and then it gets better and better, and it grows and it grows. And because of the longevity is really what defines success over a 20-year term. The problem is once a lot of people realize that, they're in their mid-40s and now they don't even want to put in that 20 years because now they're getting older, right? Whereas you start with something that you love, that you're passionate about in your 20s, and you stick with that. And if it doesn't eventually work, okay, try something new, but stick with that. That doesn't give you the right to bounce around, to try, like all of a sudden everyone's a crypto trader, right? Like get into crypto. It's like, what do you know about crypto? Well, I know this and that. Like, oh, okay, is that it? That's all I gotta know. That sounds great. Sign me up. I've learned to avoid stuff that I don't know. I won't invest in stuff that I don't know. I won't look at things that I don't know. Like I know real estate and I know finance and maybe a few other things, but that's my bread and butter. And that's why I like sticking to it. When people come up to me with investments, it's like, if it's something I don't know, like how many times has somebody come up to me talk about crypto? Like, no. Why? It's the future. Because I don't know anything about it. right? And if I don't know anything about it, I can't get comfortable with it anymore. And that's a mistake that a lot of young entrepreneurs make that are making money, is that they try to like test the waters and they find out what's not in your control. Like, I can control my company. I can control the outcomes by my work ethic. I can control it by a lot of different circumstances. I can control investing in real estate because I now feel comfortable in looking at a project and saying why I think it works or it doesn't. Understanding different tax law when it comes to different investments. Like, that's all real estate related. But when it comes to crypto, and 2 years ago, every Uber driver was involved in Bitcoin, right? Like that was the new currency. And then all of a sudden you got all these new cryptos that come out, Doggy Coin or whatever it's called. Like, I don't even know the names of this shit, right? Because I don't pay attention to it. But now there's 1,000 currencies and all this stuff going on. And I guess my point is sticking to what you know and sticking to it and getting better and better and better and better at it. To me, that's what pays off in the long run.